Welcome back to 5 Minute Drum Lessons, where we get it done in 5 minutes or less. On today's agenda, answering a question from Christopher about tom grooves. So basically the question is, it's just a little more information on tom grooves and how to get them going, using your toms as the main part of your groove rather than maybe your hi-hat or your ride cymbal or what have you. So the first thing I'm going to say about this is don't think about tom grooves as different from the regular grooves you're playing. All the grooves that you play using your hi-hat, whether you have one hand on the hi-hat or two hands on the hi-hat, all that vocabulary can be used with your toms. So I'm going to we'll start simple and then work a few more ideas into it. But the thing is, at least for me, I don't think about tom stuff as it's a different sound, but technically the grooves I'm playing, mostly what I'm doing, physically, it's the same things I'm doing when I'm using this. So if we just take a basic beat, something like that, first thing you can do is just transfer the right hand to your floor tom. So this is really like using your floor tom instead of your hi-hat, very literally. So you're probably already doing that kind of thing. But that's a good place to start. And then we can start adding in extra ghost notes and extra little things to sort of spice it up. So if I want to... Well, if I was doing that here, it would just be... So nothing I'm doing physically is changing. And then if you want to get into using this tom as well, I think the best way to get into it is just thinking about an alternating 16th note groove. So, because if you can do that, then you can just put right hand floor tom, left hand up here. Okay. And then you can vary your bass drum pattern, and you can add accents on your toms. So, and if I go back to this context, it's the same thing. So I'm not thinking about tom grooves as a totally separate thing. It's just applying what you already know and putting your hands on the toms instead. And then, like you can do things like, so this is a beat most of us probably know. So if you want to reinterpret that over here, just literally moving the right hand to the floor tom would sound like this. Which works great. But you can also move your left hand to the other tom for the ghost notes, or you don't have to play them as ghost notes, but just as the notes that aren't on 2 and 4. So that would sound like this. So that's really cool too, because you're using that tom for all the notes that aren't 2 and 4. And so you're filling them in, and that kind of gives you like a tom groove type thing. And then from there, really any pattern, any beat you're playing, even if it's a MixedSticking thing, like something I was messing with, and something I talked about recently on one of the videos is that King Kong pattern where you're going. And that works really cool on the floor tom as well. mixed sticking stuff, that can help a lot, because sometimes if you want to stay more on the floor tom, like if you want it to always be here, it can get complicated trying to do this. So you need some mixed sticking where you're doing some doubles here, to make it easier for the left hand to move over to the snare. And then when you're playing tom grooves as well, so basically the idea is it can be any old beat, and you just need to figure out how to interpret it here. So you're either doing alternating sixteenths, or you're doing, that's kind of, alternating sixteenths. You can do a ton with that, and then adding accents. And the other thing about tom grooves is that it's easy to work in fills. Well, it may not be, like, you're already on the toms, so if you do kind of like, if you're playing your groove, and then you do a little fill thing, you're already there, so you can sort of like play more on the toms, and you're doing a fill, you're deviating from the beat a bit, but it's not as, like, it sort of sounds like you're still doing a tom groove, and you're not deviating as much as if you were, as though if you were over here going, or whatever. And then, so you can work fills in on the toms. I think the main thing to think about in general, accented 16th note patterns. So you're just thinking 16 notes, and then doing accented patterns. Then you're into it. So you can play those accented patterns, accented 16th note patterns, whatever you have or whatever you're improvising, on your toms alone. And then if you want to make it sound like a beat, or you bring the backbeat in it, just figure out how to play 2 and 4 on the snare in the context of that 16th note pattern, and it's going to sound really, really good. And then you can have a bass drum pattern if you want, or you can just do the 1 and 3, or you can do all 4 quarter notes. Whatever you want, it's going to sound cool. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, a lot of times it sounds really cool to have a little bit of cymbal sound in your tom groove. So what a lot of us do is play off beats. So you play the ands on the hi-hat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So you're making your groove. I love this question because I'm actually starting to have a lot of fun, and I'm starting to have a few more ideas of my own. But yeah, adding the offbeat hi-hat thing, there's a ton you can do with this stuff. Really great question. Thank you so much for the question. I hope you got something out of the video. If you do have more questions after seeing this video, ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, thank you for joining me. See you on the next one.